Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday, May 8th version of studentloanjustice.org. How is everybody doing out there in the world? We are Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest, largest, and pretty much only true grassroots group. Look at this kitten. They're up for adoption right now. So if you happen to live in northern Wisconsin, I've got two that look like that, and I've got a couple other two smaller females as well. Little production value there. Hope everything's going well out there, guys. We are kicking ass right now, and at the same time, we are getting our asses kicked. So I don't know if you happened to read the headlines yesterday, but if you do, and for the past 5 days, but if you do an article search right now on Google, a news search for student loans, here is what you get. I'm going to switch screens here so you can see this. This is frankly so crazy. It's comical, I guess, or something like that. Okay, here we go. Here is today's headlines. So hopefully you can see they're all against us, right? I mean, if all you did was look on the internet, you would think that we just don't have a leg to stand on. Like, how dare we call for student loan cancellation? Student loans should not be forgiven by taxpayers. Biden's student loan giveaway, a bad idea. Even with income limit of $125,000, Biden's student loan forgiveness is unfair to most, etc., etc., etc. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, you don't see headlines like that, like so overwhelmingly against us in a real world. That's not real, guys. Those headlines are manufactured. We've seen this before. I mean, we've known about the bad guys for the whole 17 years that we've been doing this. We've seen the little tricks they play, little webs they weave, and this is exactly that. The only difference is, instead of seeing like maybe one article a week, which is kind of where we were at maybe a couple of years ago, now we're seeing around 4 to 5, if not today, maybe even 6 or 7 articles per day. So, but think about it. It makes sense. Not because we're wrong, we don't have an argument, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but rather, we're talking about a $1.6 trillion federal student loan industry and another $200-300 billion in private student loans. That's a lot of money. And there are a lot of people who would very much like to keep this lending scam going. So if you're fighting for a 1.8, quite frankly, nearly $2 trillion industry, do you not have a few $1 million laying around to pay to get headlines? I think you do. Like, you could probably get any of those people, offer them $5,000, and they will happily write a headline like that for you. That's what we're seeing, ladies and gentlemen. This is the student loan swamp against us. Hey, by the way, if you have any questions or comments, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, by the way. My mom passed away a little over 3 years ago, but I hope and pray she's looking down on us, and very pleased with what she sees. And I hope if your mother has passed on, I hope the same is for you. But to all the mothers out there, we salute you. And interestingly, I hope that you'll go to our Twitter feed and look at our, I believe it's our featured post, or on our Facebook group. There's a nice little Mother's Day graphic that we put up there, which speaks to the plight of mothers under this draconian, unconstitutional, unfair, vanishing into illegitimate lending system. So hang in there. We're all in this together. We're fighting for you. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments and you're watching us on Twitter or Facebook, then by all means, throw them out, and I will gladly respond to them in situ. So first
first things first, I have a couple announcements to make. Some actual interesting, new, and important news. A fairly credible looking medical study that was published recently, it just was reported on quite recently, shows a strong correlation between student loan debt and coronary disease. So, and we already knew that was true. You know, we've known anecdotally for years and years that the link between student loan debt and ill health is an obvious and compelling one, be it stress or heart stuff, or I think if you looked at many, many, many other aspects of health, not just the heart, I think you would find quite a few other examples of how student loan debt definitely has an adverse effect on people's health. So that's interesting. And I expect maybe that story will see the light of day if it isn't crowded out by, and we're going to be seeing 15-1 bad to good pieces launched against us by the opposition going forward, guys. That's just a reality. So get ready for it. It's going to happen. We saw it begin to happen maybe. Well, we saw a surge begin right when our petition started getting big. Knock on wood. I think that might have been by coincidence. I don't know. But truly, guys, just in the past 3 weeks, we've seen the bad guys freak the F out. And literally today, I think is the worst day in the 17-year history of our group in terms of hit pieces being seeded into the zeitgeist against us. And hopefully you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I still have a smile on my face because honestly, that is a great sign that we're getting close and our opposition is freaking out. They are on, if our thing went to 10, they've gone to 11. Okay. Honestly, I think they've gone to about 18. It's like way beyond 11. We knew this would happen. I welcome it. And I welcome any chance to have a fair, accurate, truthful debate on this issue. More than anything, this one-sided crap it's not helpful, obviously, but guys, think about it this way. At some point, number one, people aren't stupid. People are kind of stupid, but people really aren't stupid. Like they can tell when they're being manipulated by the media, at least I think most of them can. And if you were to open up the newspaper tomorrow and everything you saw was stuff like, let me pick something that's non-offensive. Like if you picked up the newspaper tomorrow and you saw headlines blaring out that that Girl Scout cookies were bad for you, like if pretty much every day, twice a day, you look, oh, what's this about Girl Scout cookie? What's going on here? You might think the Boy Scouts had something to do with that, right? Like, okay, no, that's kind of a stupid idea, stupid example, but like, I don't know. You name it. It's people aren't stupid. They know when they're being media manipulated. They can kind of, at least over time, they can kind of tell that they're being gaslighted. And so what we're seeing today and what we will continue to see is more of those shoes falling off that millipede. Now, the good news is two things. The argument for the bad guys is absolutely ridiculous, inane, and asinine, and easily defeated. Like, we can flick it off like a piece of lint on my shoulder. Not hard to do. The other good news is that it does not matter what the bad guys do or say. This lending system is done. This lending system is toast. Federal student loans are evaporating into a mist of illegitimacy. And hopefully this is the last death throw that we'll have to contend with. I don't think it is. I think we'll see quite a few more lurches and
and spasms before this dying beast finally gives up the ghost. But it doesn't matter, guys. No matter what the bad guys say or do, the lending system is not coming back. Look, before the pandemic, almost 2/3 of all borrowers, 64.3% of all borrowers, were not paying. The default rate, and that's 2/3, guys. Right now, nobody's paying. Whenever they try and turn the lending system back on, 6 months ago, I was saying that maybe 25%, 1/4 of the people will resume paying. Today, I'm saying it'll be stunning if even 20% resume paying. 6 months from now, it's only going lower. Like fewer and fewer and fewer people will ever resume paying on their loans. But I think once you're down to about 1 in 5, I think that's a good enough place to call it dead, call it a failure, call it done. The lending system is going away, ladies and gentlemen. So this could have a good outcome and a bad outcome. We want a quick, clean death. Our opposition would like to prolong this agony for years or even decades if they possibly can. Much depends on how hard we fight. I kid you not. This group doesn't seem like much. I understand that. We are. We may not even have a formal legal structure, but nonetheless, this group here is ground zero in the fight for student loan justice. We would not have a good bankruptcy bill to fight for in the Senate right now, S-2598. But for the efforts of the people on this group, we would not be talking about student loan cancellation by executive order, but for the efforts of people on this group. I kid you not. As far as proof goes, do a Google News search for student loan cancellation by executive order. And the very first news item you will see in that search is an interview we did in August, I think, 2019 with Vice News. It was right after President Trump had canceled a bunch of loans for disabled veterans. And the question of the article was, could the president do this to all loans? And the answer is yes. There was some debate at the time. I said yes. Mark Kantrowitz said no. Mark Kantrowitz is wrong. The law is very clear on this. But nobody was talking about student loan cancellation up until that time almost. And this group started the petition in March 2020, which was even 6 months after that, but still well before almost anybody was talking about student loan cancellation by executive order. It was only when our petition started really kicking ass, we were up over 500,000 signatures, that Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced the concept, and they dumbed it down and they wrecked it, I might add. But no, we're glad that they did that. But that all started here, guys. That all started with this group, with me and you and people like Leslie Fishman and Doug Grostefan and all the other people out there who I cannot name. I wish I could name, but there's tens of thousands of them who have been doing the diligent work necessary to fight this battle. We've never been closer ever to, number one, getting bankruptcy returned to all student loans, and number two, getting the loans freaking canceled for real. So that stuff did not happen in a vacuum, guys. We didn't sit here and twiddle our thumbs and all of a sudden it happened. That stuff happened because people were fighting with us. Like Gordon Wayne Watts is probably the hardest fighter in this group, I think, going back to many years ago. Gordon fought Rush Limbaugh to a draw on air. And let me just twiddle our thumbs and all of a sudden it happened. Oh, there I am. Let me just look and see if I can dial in your comments here for a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Couple other quick announcements. We've got a bunch of interview requests, I think, that are already satisfied, but we're still looking for people in the Washington, D.C. area. And knock on wood, I hope to have quite a few more media requests from at least one national newspaper. It's not national, but it's a very large, well-known newspaper. Okay, put it that way. Newspaper that everybody reads. And hopefully we'll see some good stories coming out. We were featured on Fox. We were interviewed on Fox News, Dana Perino, like a month ago. which was good. More recently, this past week, we were featured in a story published by a very right-wing publication. What was the name of it? Oh, I can't remember. There's so many now. Remember when it used to be you had 3 channels on your TV, and now we've got like 3,000, if not maybe even more. So too, it was with my scrambled brain, where we're doing interviews with people I've literally never even, news organizations I've literally, and some of them are national news shows that I've literally never even heard of before. But yeah, this most recent article we did with a right-wing, sort of right-leaning website. Oh, what's it called? I'll remember it, but it was good. It was good. We can go in the Lion's Den, by the way, guys. We are thrilled that we've been on like News Nation. That's not it. Fox News. That's not it. Fox Business. Many conservative outlets. Coast to Coast AM. Shoot, it's got a really weird, funky name. I'll remember it in a minute. Anyways, but at the same time, we can go on all media, any and all. We like to go into the Lion's Den. We like to take on the, Dana Perinos of the world. We like to answer all the tough questions because that's where this problem gets solved. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, we Republicans should be on our side. We're a fiercely nonpartisan group, so just in case if you're new to the group. We are a fiercely nonpartisan group. But having said that, we have to be politics aware. And of all those headlines I just pointed out to you earlier, pretty much every single one was written by someone claiming to be a conservative. And it's a sad state of affairs. The GOP and conservatives are idiots if they want to keep pressing this attack. There's no good reason for this to be a partisan problem. The worst hurt states are southern red states. Over 50% of student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent. I kid you not, but it's true. It's absolutely true. And if you go to our Medium channel, which I will dial in for you right now, studentloanjustice.medium.com, you can read the source data for yourself, which proves that unequivocally from Gallup polls and Pew Research. So it's not perfect data, but it's very compelling data that shows that, student loan borrowers are not these left-wing liberal snowflakes or whatever. Over half of them are either Republican or independent. By the way, most student loan borrowers are over the age of 35, not under. And people over the age of 50 now outnumber people under the age of 25 with student loans. I kid you not. It sounds crazy. I'm telling you, it's true. And both of those older groups that I just mentioned owe far, 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 far more than the younger group. Now, how could that even be possible? People in their 50s went to college 30 years ago. There's no good reason that they should owe anything in student loans, let alone 300% more than the average 25-year-old or younger holds on average. That's the sign of a failed lending system. There are many signs that this lending system has failed, by the way. Oh, one thing I didn't say, but I should have gotten back to. The default rate is ridiculous. Like 50% of all federally held FFELP loans are in default. But that's not even the tip of the iceberg. The default rate for 2004 students is 40%. That's double the subprime home mortgage default rate. But 2004 students were only borrowing a third of what's being borrowed today. So for everybody walking around right now with student loans, the default rate is something like, I don't know, 70, 65, 70, 75%, maybe 80%. That's like 3 to 4 times higher than the subprime home mortgage default rate. It's a failed lending system, guys. It's failed. Failed. Don't forget that. It's failed. So I see we have quite a few comments here tonight. Let me see if I can scroll to them. Hey, Leslie Fishman. Starting at the older ones first. How are you, Leslie? Thank you for the donation, by the way, Leslie. I need to, maybe I should do a quick plug. We need to raise around $750 this coming week. So if you can donate, please do it. Just go to studentloanjustice.org/donate. Thank you, Leslie. She says it's all bullshit. And you know, Leslie, I literally made a graphic, which is some boots in a pile of what you said. And the text on the graphic is pull your boots up. The BS is getting thick. And that is very true. And by the way, I made that graphic over a month ago, and it's gotten way worse than even I was thinking it was going to get a month ago. So yes, it is all indeed bull pucky, as some people like to call it. Hey, Doug Grossman's here with us tonight, as is Gordon Wayne Watts. Gordon plans to write on fake conservatives and GOP who don't cut taxpayer-funded subsidies. Yeah, let's talk about this for a minute, guys. Look, what do we know about the federal student loan system? Well, number one, it's federal. It's the federal government, right? It's $1.6 trillion. That's big government, which conservatives claim to not like. Let's follow the money. Where does the money go? Well, number one, the money goes to the colleges. Another entity which the Republican or conservatives claim not to like, right? Because they're these socialist indoctrination factories and stuff like that. Let's look at the people being hurt worse by these loans. At state by state, by far and away, the worst hurt states are states in the South. In fact, it's like a square. It's like a solid block, the 10 worst states. It's like Missouri down to Louisiana, over to Florida and up to North Carolina and everything in between. Those are the 10 worst states. And Texas is not good, by the way. Texas and Alabama, student loan debt in those two states exceeds the entire state budget. And that's true for most of the other states in the South. Republicans should be fighting tooth and nail against this big government, college enriching, socialistic, some might say, loan scam. There's no good reason for Republicans to be essentially cheerleading this failed lending system. But hey, guys, should and would and could are very interesting things in this universe, in the student loan universe, versus reality. The reality is Republicans are opposing us on student loan cancellation. The reality is that Republicans have opposed us on bankruptcy for the 17 years we've been doing this. Now, here's the best news I have for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Since we've been fighting hard for student loan cancellation since March of 2020, an interesting thing has happened. Despite all the terrible hater headlines that we're seeing right now, despite all of the finger waggy nonsense we're seeing from fakes, these hit and run mercenary journalists, almost nobody ever anymore opposes the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. Almost no one. That's huge, guys. You have no idea. You know, the most important policy point I'm going to make tonight is that, I'm sorry, if Bernie or Elizabeth Warren were president, maybe it'd be different. Maybe not. Maybe it would be. But we are not going to see meaningful student loan cancellation from President Biden unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy returned to us as it exists for every other loan. And as the founders demanded ahead of the power to declare war and raise an army, I might add, it's just not going to happen. Biden is a kind of a dirtbag, I have to say. He's got a terrible history on the student loan problem of fighting for the banks. He's always been that way. And as long as we remain vulnerable, naked, and afraid, and without the constitutional bankruptcy protections that the founders called for in the Constitution, not the Bill of Rights, by the way, the body of the Constitution itself, until we get the threat of bankruptcy back, until we get the leverage of bankruptcy back, I don't see Biden doing much more than this up to $10,000 means tested nonsense. And by the way, guys, we did a poll. And if you look in our Facebook group, I urge you to take the poll for yourself. The overwhelmingly large majority of people on our group, and we probably skew maybe a little bit, maybe significantly, maybe measurably higher in our average student loan debt load. Probably not a lot, but probably some. So there's that. But nonetheless, the massively overwhelming majority of the people in our group said that a $10,000 loan cancellation would not make a dent in their student loans. And we've had I think we've had at least 3,000 people fill that survey out at this point. So those are becoming pretty believable numbers. Certainly for our group, no doubt, but maybe fairly valid, if somewhat high, I have to admit, representation of the people in general. I think there's a lot of dicey things going on with the data being thrown at us. There's a lot of bad data out there. In fact, I don't even think that the gold standard for education, student loan information, student loan data, which is the Department of Education, I really don't think their data is accurate in many ways. And they're the gold standard. I think they are unreporting the value of their portfolio by quite a lot. I think it's quite a lot higher than $1.6 trillion. I'd be happy to go into that if anybody's interested in knowing why I say that. But, well, I'll tell you right now. In fact, I know the Department of Education was not reporting interest accrued on defaulted loans as of 2009, 2010. I think that practice still holds sway today. I think that if you default on a loan at $50,000, I think that loan goes into the government books as a $50,000 defaulted loan. It may go up to $300,000 with interest and penalties and fees after it goes into default, but I don't think they count all that extra money into the value of their portfolio. So I think the true size of the federal student loan portfolio, it's got to be way over $2 trillion. It would be nice if I was able to prove that. We have asked, we've asked nicely. We've asked many times. We've begged senators like Elizabeth Warren to get to the bottom of this very important question, and they don't seem to want to do it. So go figure. But whatever. The numbers don't lie. $10,000 is an insult. It's a joke. You may as well not even do it. And honestly, guys, as long as bankruptcy remains gone from these loans, and I know nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. Bankruptcy sucks. I get that. But as long as the threat, the leverage of bankruptcy remains gone from these loans, they would love to foist another fake student loan cancellation on us. Hell, Biden could come on stage tomorrow and say, I'm now going to cancel up to $50,000. And the band would cheer, the parade, the ticker tape, all that stuff. Champagne would pop. And at the end of the day, that up to $50,000 would be reduced to almost nothing for almost everyone. And it would be absolutely nothing for many, probably most. That's the way the Department of Education has always rolled. You give them any weasel wording so that they can not cancel loans, and that is what they will do. There's been upwards of 5-6 million people who have tried for the various loan cancellation gimmicks out there, the income-driven repayment plans, ICR, PAYE, P-A-Y-E, pay as you earn, revised pay as you earn, public service loan forgiveness, income-based repayment. And over 99% of everyone who tried for those got disqualified out of the program before getting a nickel of their loans forgiven. So yeah, guys, as long as bankruptcy's gone, we're going to get screwed. And that is my number one fear, quite frankly. They would love to do another bait and switch where they go, yeah, we're going to cancel those. And then all of a sudden they don't return bankruptcy. And they go, yeah, look, no, we're going to cancel those. No, that's bullshit. Don't believe it. Don't believe it for a second, guys. As long as bankruptcy remains gone, nothing the Department of Education says or does is trustworthy. Other federal agencies, I'm sure they do a swell job of serving the public. The Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Health and Department of, you name it, Homeland Security. I'm sure they all do a great job. The Department of Education is a captured and corrupted agency, ladies and gentlemen. They have jettisoned all pretense of fighting for the people many years, decades ago. They have no desire, they have no intentions of canceling any loans if they can get away with not doing that. And as long as bankruptcy's gone, they can. Trust me on that. Over 17 years, that's the most important policy point we have learned as a practical matter. As long as bankruptcy's gone, we're effed. So quite a few other comments here. Kelly Kessler, how are you tonight, Kelly? Kelly says, you've got power when you've got right on your side. Well, that's right, Kelly. Right makes might. And I don't care what anybody says. Truth is a very stubborn thing. It doesn't matter what Fox News people say. It doesn't matter what the newspapers say. It doesn't matter what these paid hired guns say. At the end of the day, guys, who owns the loans? We do, the people. And the people have spoken very loudly yet quietly. Their silence is all the thunderous statement that you need to hear. Not paying. 2/3 were not paying before the pandemic. The lending system is failed. In my humble opinion, if you ever pay another dollar on your federal student loans, you're not only being stupid, you're being unpatriotic. This is a beast that doesn't need to be fed. Needs to be starved out of existence. And by paying them your good, hard-earned money, you're only making it easier for them to screw the next generation of people. Don't do that. People are going to do what they're going to do. We don't offer any advice. We're not telling people not to pay. All I'm saying is, in my humble opinion, what I just said, you're going to be, if you do resume paying your federal student loans, you're going to be in the tiny, tiny sliver of a minority. So I know everybody's got their own situations. I get that. Think about bulletproofing yourself. Seriously, if I had to give the best advice I have, and especially if you're new to the group, number one, the absolute best piece of advice I have for you is to go to our website, studentloanjustice.org, and do at least a month worth of our daily actions. That is the most important thing you can do. Second thing I would say is go to our Medium site and read our most recent 6 to 7 articles. If you do, and they're easy to read articles. It's not rocket science. When you read them and understand them, you will become a very fit and fine student loan justice warrior. You'll be able to go on Twitter and do battle with these idiots and knock them down like shooting fish in a barrel. But do those two things. That's the first most important thing that you can do. Those articles are very important. There's some very important unbroken news in those articles, by the way. And just to our group's credibility, so you know, we've been interviewed on 60 Minutes, and we've broken news at the Chronicle of Higher Education and Inside Higher Ed. We've broken news all over the place. The Wall Street Journal. We're a very credible organization, guys. It's true. We're nothing more than just a collection of people. We are as grassroots gets. But I make sure that we do not put out any junk research at all. There's enough junk research in the zeitgeist out there to choke a freaking horse. We don't do that. And I'm risk averse anyways. I don't like being attacked for bad research. I never have been attacked for bad research because I've never done bad research. I've been attacked for good research that some bad people were claiming was bad research. But we've been doing this for 17 years, guys. And I don't think we would be here this long if we were putting out junk information. We put out the most accurate information that anybody can find. So when I tell you that 2/3 of all borrowers were not paying before the pandemic, you can take that to the bank. And almost 90% of the stuff that I say will be directly sourced and easily verified by Department of Education data. So remember that. Yeah, some very interesting facts about the student loan problem that most people don't realize. So you're right, Kelly. We've got power because we've got right on our side. Some people say might makes right. No. Right makes might. Abraham Lincoln was right. A lot of chit chat I see here that I'm a little one-liner back and forth, little comments here. I'm not going to get into the weeds on all that kind of stuff, but I do see, Ed McKinnon, the Epoch Time. Thank you, Ed. Yes, we are featured in the Epic Times, EPOCH Times. I knew it was some kind of like end of the world thing, epic times. So if you Google John Ransom or maybe Alan Collins and Epic Times, EPOCH Times, you can see the article for yourself. Strong, surprisingly strong article. Some points that have not yet been reported were made in that article. So I'm not going to say it's been broken yet. The way I view breaking a story, it's not truly broken unless other news organizations pick up on wherever you publish your stuff. So I wouldn't call it that a broken story, but I would give a strong tip of the cap to John Ransom. He did a very fair and accurate write-up of that. And I know other writers at the Epic Times have been writing some trash lately about how student loan cancellation will unduly benefit the wealthy, and student loan cancellation will cause inflation, and student loan cancellation will benefit the rich, and all these lies, more provable lies. By the way, guys, student loan cancellation will not benefit the wealthy, in case you hadn't heard. Number one, wealthy people can't even get student loans, certainly not federal student loans. Number two, wealthy people just don't get student loans. But number three, even compared to PPP loans, 70% of that debt is held by the bottom 80% of earners. So the people who will largely benefit from student loan cancellation, even in terms of earning, are the bottom 80% bracket. So student loan cancellation will largely benefit the unwealthy. And even among the quote unquote wealthy, which is the 100K and over crowd, those people tend to be in their 50, at least for student loans. Those people aren't the young doctors and lawyers that borrowed a shit pile of money for college. No. The highest balance student loan borrowers are older people in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. Do they make more than $100,000 a year? Yeah. They're older. That's kind of how that works. But these people have been wrecked. These people have been absolutely devastated by these loans. Their entire adult lives have been wrecked by these student loans over many years or decades. Many of them have paid many times what they originally borrowed back, and yet they still owe many times what they borrowed. So those are the wealthy people that are going to benefit from student loan cancellation. And by the way, the young doctors and lawyers they like to trot out, they typically refinance their federal student loans out of the federal program, like with SoFi or stuff like that. So, and compared to PPP loans, holy shit, the $100,000 and over crowd for PPP loans, they got 75% of those loans. Canceling PPP loans is regressive. You want to talk about regressive? Let's talk about PPP loans. And by the way, PPP loans all added to the national debt and required money to be drawn from the Treasury. Canceling federal student loans requires not one thin dime to be drawn from the Treasury and adds not one nickel to the federal national debt. So I'm telling you guys, we got this. We got this. Our argument is so freaking nuclear powered strong. You have no idea. We can be overwhelmed, but we can't be out debated, guys. Right makes might. So I'm seeing 21 more comments. The debt has eclipsed 1.9 billion. Come on, 2 trillion. Honestly, Ed, we were way over $2 trillion years ago. Honestly, there's a ton of debt out there where people borrow money from their private banks. They get it like a home equity line of credit, and they pay off their student loans with those new loans. So if you count that bunch of dark debt out there, we're way over $2 trillion. And again, if you count all the interest that accrued on defaulted loans after the time of default in the federal program, we could and I think I'm right on that. I don't know for a fact, but if I am right on that, we're way over $2 trillion. We're probably at 2.345 trillion. So hey, great question, Michael. Michael Jacobs asks, when will S2598 get voted on? S2598 is the most important bill ever in the 17-year history of this organization, guys. It returns bankruptcy to federal student loans at long last. There's a 10-year waiting period. It's not perfect. It doesn't cover private loans. That's terrible, but it's a very strong bill in the right direction. And it's got 2 Republican co-sponsors on it. If you forget everything I say tonight, remember this, S2598. We will not see meaningful student loan cancellation unless we get the threat of bankruptcy back. So S2598 is a must-pass bill, and it's got Republican support, which is very meaningful. Now, unfortunately, Michael, I don't know when it'll get voted on. According to my sources in the Senate, the past month, like the first 2 weeks in the past month, were incredibly important. And I assume the conversations are probably ongoing as we speak. But I am waiting with bated breath for word from the Senate that this bill is moving forward. There's no reason it shouldn't. And as soon as I know, I will definitely let you all know. And thanks, by the way. I know we were in a fevered pitch of lobbying, citizen lobbying, not Washington, D.C. lobbying, not writing checks to congressmen, but rather calling congressional offices and so forth. Fevered pitch as of like 2 weeks ago, and I'm hoping that will pay off. The battle's not over, guys, though. You know, the fact that I haven't heard anything gives me it freaks me out a little bit. I'm quite frankly worried. We have been screwed out of bankruptcy many times in the past, ladies and gentlemen. It cannot happen again. It cannot. I might add also, we have firm, written, even tweeted commitments from the Secretary of Education, from the Undersecretary of Education, James Cavall, and video testimony from Richard Cordray that they are going to stop opposing federal student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. And that is a very important workaround that the White House has obligated itself to do. So we are also waiting very eagerly to see what they come out with on that front as well. So, guys, we are right on the verge, guys. We are right on the bubble, let me tell you. Leslie Fishman says, crickets. I'm not sure what you're talking about. And I'm sorry, you know, Warren, Gordon, you just post way too much. I can't respond to all your comments, buddy. Any tips on convincing Pelosi, Gordon says, to move our bill via House companion legislation, Rest 2598? No, not really. We're going to get the Senate bill through. I'm actually still waiting to hear on the House bill as well. All I know is the Democrats had better not screw us this time. Let me say that again. And if you're a Democrat, you better take this very seriously. We are watching closely. And I'm here to tell you that the Democrats had better not screw us on bankruptcy again this time. Like they did in 2008, by the way. The Blue Dog Democrats rose up and killed legislation that would have returned bankruptcy protections to private student loans in 2008. We couldn't believe they did that, but they did that. And I'm here to tell you that the Democrats are on very thin ice right now vis-a-vis the student loan issue. And if they think they can win our votes with a nonsense fake loan cancellation and the continued absence of bankruptcy, they got another think coming. You know, they stand to lose almost everything this next election. If they don't cancel, quite frankly, in my humble, honest opinion, I think that Joe Biden's got to cancel all federally owned loans. And I think he's got to return bankruptcy protections to all loans, including those that can't be canceled. I think that's kind of what they have to do before the midterms if they want to have any hope of retaining the House, retaining the Senate. I don't see why they wouldn't. They said they would. Joe Biden said if you make $125,000 or less, he would eliminate your student loan debt before the election. You may as well go big or you're going to go home, Democrats. And to all the Democrats on our group, if what I'm saying grates on your ears, don't shoot the messenger. It's a fact. Just open your eyes. We are the largest untethered voting bloc in U.S. history, ladies and gentlemen, including private borrowers and cosigners. There's probably close to 60 million people in the country with student loans. And around 80% of those people, that's 48 million people, were underwater on their loans before the pandemic. If you assume the percentage for private loans is the same as federal loans, probably is close. That's 48 million distressed student loan voters in the country, and they trusted Biden. Many of them voted for Biden in the belief, expectation that he would meaningfully cancel loans. Many, probably millions, thought that he was going to eliminate their student loan debt. He didn't do that. So the Democrats are in the doghouse right now, and at this point, doing some feeble, lame $10,000 nonsense isn't going to impress anybody. Even doing a $50,000 bells and whistles, woohoo, cancellation, I don't think that's going to fool too many people. Certainly isn't going to fool me. Certainly isn't going to fool the people on our group who've seen this bait and switch with bankruptcy happen again and again and again. Democrats are facing an extinction level event, possibly. So the abortion issue probably will help the Democrats a little bit. That's true. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Democrat and you want the Democrats to retain power, then I urge you strongly to tell them that they must return bankruptcy protections to these loans, and they must push Biden to cancel these loans. Here's a very important thing that I want to put to you, ladies and gentlemen. Few people realize this, but it's true. If we get good bankruptcy protections returned to student loans, that is, if we get the threat of bankruptcy back, few people should even have to file. Maybe nobody will even have to file. But I think it will become very obvious and clear at that point that they're going to have to cancel loans meaningfully, broadly, maybe even totally. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sitting in the Department of Education, but if they're looking at the same numbers I'm looking at, and I think they are, if the fire of bankruptcy is lit under their ass and forces them to behave with a modicum of good faith, they may very well take a look at it and go, we can either look at a wave of 10, 15 million bankruptcy filings, or we can just chuck this lending catastrophe out the window and start over again. Call it stimulus, call it whatever you want. But quite frankly, if I was Richard Cordray or James Cavall in Washington, D.C. running the federal loan program, I would much rather build up a brand new higher education financing system from scratch than to try and repair this walking fucking disaster of a federal student loan program. This cannot be kicked down the road anymore, and there's no good reason to even do that. So, hey, Terry Dodd's with us tonight. How are you, Terry? Terry says they're claiming that these student loans are causing inflation. I'm glad you mentioned that, Terry. Okay, this is the 10-second answer to that. Canceling student loans will not cause inflation. Canceling student loans at most will be a $400 a month benefit, a $400 a month in the pockets of the borrowers who got their loans canceled. Now, that may sound like that might cause inflation, but here's the problem. The inflation that we're already seeing right now costs the average household, 2.5 people, $500 per month. So the inflation that we've already seen will not even allow people to maintain their standard of living if student loans are canceled. So canceling student loans will not cause inflation. It's just stupid. It's just the stupidest thing in the world. And we wrote a paper. You can go and look at our Medium thing. Go to bit.ly/won't cause inflation, and you can read all that. And by the way, the inflation we're seeing today is supply driven. It's not demand driven. There's not a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of money chasing around too few goods. That's not the inflation that we're seeing today. It's supply chain stuff. It's fertilizer stuff. It's price of gas stuff, which is supply related, not demand related. Hey, Michael Jacobs says cancellation frees up our credit for borrowing our revolving credit matters stimulates sales. Ideally that is true, Michael, but the increased borrowing capacity that we would have seen without inflation is going to be mitigated, because any bank that's underwriting a loan for you, where before they would have said, oh, I see you're making an extra $400 a month now, so yeah, you can easily afford the payments on this loan, so they'll make you the loan. Today, the very same person will look at your stuff and go, I see you have $400 additional income a month now, but unfortunately, your monthly cost of living went up by $500. So sorry, man, can't help you. So, so yeah, guys, student loan cancellation will not cause inflation. Anybody saying otherwise is completely full of shit. And when I say full of shit, I'm talking about people like Larry Summers. And I'm talking about like any of the laundry list of jokey mercenary writers that wrote those headlines that I just said. Google student loans, do a news search for student loans, and you can find all these student loan sycophants for yourself. These, I call them Salacious B. Crumb. Salacious B. Crumb is that tiny little creature that cleans the belly button of Jabba the Hutt on Star Wars. So on May 4th, we gave two people, Larry H. Summers and Adam Looney, supposedly of the Brookings Institute, the Salacious B. Crumb Award. And here, let me just show you, why don't I? So you can see. Congratulations, Larry Summers and Adam Looney. As they say, may the 4th be with you. Salacious B. Crumb, few people realize, is that little tiny creature that scurries in and around the crevasses of Jabba the Hutt and like cleans his belly button. I think that may even be a belly button cleaner he has in his hand there. Larry Summers and Adam Looney are both parroting, repeating to repeat the oft well-worn lie that student loan cancellation will benefit the wealthy. Larry Summers is also saying, oh, it'll cause inflation too. Larry was absolutely full of shit. Here's a guy who was president of Harvard University. He was he was head of the U.S. Treasury Department, for God's sakes. Larry Summers is not a good person, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just here to tell you, and he ought to be ashamed of himself. So yeah, we very happily gave Larry the Salacious B. Crumb. Congratulations, Larry. May the 4th be with you. And Tim Looney as well. He's a younger guy, doesn't have much of a reputation. He's really a shark from the Treasury Department. Anyways, all right, guys, I've gone way too long tonight. Things are heating up. We need you in this battle. These are your loans. This is your problem. We got this, but only when you help. If you think you can sit back and wait and watch and worry, and this problem is going to solve itself and student loan cancellation is going to fall in your lap, you are woefully wrong. Our opposition, they want you sitting there reading all the garbage articles being posted against us by Forbes magazine, by Yahoo Finance, by all the media just about. As I said, the hit pieces versus us is like 15-1 right now. That may be even going up to 20-1. I don't know how much more they can do. I think people are going to get wise, and I think that all this nonsense they keep trying they doth protest too much type of thing. People are going to get wise to this bullshit. I mean, if you look at the comments below these articles, they are now running about 8-2 in our favor. So people aren't stupid. People have woken up to this lending scam. But nonetheless, guys, the opposition wants you reading that shit. They want you demoralized. They want you walking around being quiet. That's the key to the student loan scam, is your silence. They want that. They want you walking around with your tail in between your legs, and they want you paying. That's what they want. And you had better not give them the pleasure, because we need your help. I kid you not. We will be buried by this bullshit if you allow that to happen. You can't unhear that. We are the pioneers. This group right here is ground zero in this fight. I kid you not. So I would say forget about all the nonsense. It's going to get worse. Focus on what's important. And the most effective use of your time is going to our website, studentloanjustice.org, and doing our daily actions, as I've already said. That's the most important thing. If you've never done any of our daily actions, I would say you probably want to go back about 2 months and do 2 months worth of our daily actions. They're super quick, by the way. It's like Twitter stuff. You can do a daily action in probably 15 or 20 seconds. It's not a hard thing, but it's a massive muscle to flex. We've got we've got nearly 1.3 million people in our group now between our petition, all of our other platforms. That would shut down every switchboard in Washington, D.C. It would overwhelm every Twitter account on the internet if everybody helped. So help. We need you. This is your battle to fight. You're not better than us, by the way. And everybody I'm seeing out there on the group, Leslie and Kelly and Stephen, I know that you guys are out there fighting. I appreciate that. So help us fight. It's not that hard. Hey, one last comment I see from Stephen Keegan. Stephen says, people know it isn't sustainable. Many of us have children and don't want to fight, want the same shit for them. That's my why. Well, that's a great why, Stephen. You know, every night I like to say, it's not just us that we're fighting for. It's tens or hundreds of millions of people who are going to follow in our footsteps. And by the way, if they can do to other loans what they did to student loans, the bad guys, and they are out there, just do a Google search, look at those headlines. The bad guys are out there. The bad guys would happily rip bankruptcy rights away from every loan they possibly could. The bad guys would very happily turn the United States of America into a slave, serf, vassal state. This is the camel's nose under the tent. The student loan thing is literally, it is the camel's, well, not literally. It is the camel's nose under the tent, guys, and that's very serious. So we're not just talking about tens or hundreds of millions of people to follow in our footsteps. We could be talking about billions of people to follow in our footsteps. We cannot allow this injustice to stand. And that is the most important thing I will say tonight. So help us. This next week is going to be our biggest week ever in the history of our organization, guys. Help us do our daily actions every day. Do more than our daily actions, by the way. We have clever, smart people on our group. You can think for yourself. You can do way more than our daily actions. Think about it. And let us know when you accomplish stuff. You know, getting even one Republican governor like Ron DeSantis or the governor of Ohio or Texas or Alabama or North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee, getting any Republican governor to stand up and say, President Biden, cancel these freaking loans. I will not let my great state of Texas be conquered and enslaved. John Adams' words, not mine. Conquered and enslaved by $141 billion in federal student loan debt. Mr. President, cancel the loans. If we can get one Republican governor to do that, that's it, guys. That's game over. That's game over, and we win. So you're smart, you're clever, you're creative. Make that happen. Make it your mission. And take this very seriously because, as I said, guys, we are the tip of the spear. We are the eye of the storm. And none of this stuff is going to get done unless and until you do it. So, all right, guys, I've gone way too long. I will be back tomorrow. Our fearless co-leader, Ed, will be back on Tuesday. Make it count, guys. And happy Mother's Day again to all the mothers out there. So good luck. Godspeed.